Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. Hey folks, a huge case before the Supreme Court today. Oral arguments were heard over the question of a citizenship question on the United States Census. The Trump administration has been lying repeatedly about the origins of that. They have been sued. They have been losing in federal court. Now it goes to the Supreme Court. Joining us right now is Kristen Clarke, President and Executive Director of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. She joins us by phone. Kristen, obviously this is a huge case. The Trump administration, as I said, they've been lying repeatedly as to the origins of this, and now they're literally trying to pimp the Voting Rights Act, saying that's the reason why this question needs to be on the census?
Yeah, this is one of the biggest cases of the term, perhaps the biggest blockbuster before the court. Argument went longer than typical, as opposed to an hour. They spent an hour and a half today on a case that's a huge racial justice case, because it will have significant implications for black and brown people across our country. What the administration is doing is they've resurrected a citizenship question that goes out on the short form that goes to every household in the country. This question, the citizenship question, hasn't appeared on the form since the Jim Crow era. So we're talking in more than 6 decades, the administration has not done this, because the people who test what discourages people from responding to the census and what doesn't have repeatedly, over and over and over again, said that this will depress turnout and participation, and we don't need it, frankly. The goal with the census, it's not a political test. The goal is simple: to capture a full and accurate count of the population, and that data is used to disperse billions of dollars to communities that go towards building schools, building hospitals, maintaining roads and bridges. I mean, this is the lifeblood that communities turn on. At the start of a decade, you figure out how you allocate those federal dollars. And if communities fall short, if people don't participate, then communities won't get the fair share of allocation of federal funding that they deserve. So I was in the court today for the argument, and, I'll tell you, it was very discouraging, because Wilbur Ross, who heads the Commerce Department, added this citizenship question out of nowhere at the 11th hour. He said that, hey, the only reason I'm doing this is because the Justice Department asked me to, and they say they need this to enforce the Voting Rights Act. Number one, we know that this Justice Department hasn't brought a single voting case, and in fact promotes voter suppression and celebrates it. Number two, we uncovered a trail of evidence in the course of our litigation. We, at the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, sued the Trump administration over this and uncovered documents and emails showing that Chris Kobach and Steve Bannon had their hands all over this and really pushed and lobbied the administration to add this question. And number three, they did it over the objection of scientists inside the Census Bureau itself, who said, if you do this, it will harm the census and jeopardize our ability to get a full count. And all of that evidence did not seem to persuade, Justice Roberts and Kavanaugh and Gorsuch today. It was incredibly discouraging.
And Kristen, when you look at some of these arguments, first of all, this voting rights argument is just truly nonsensical. You make the point about how they have not brought a single voting rights case, and the fact that did any Supreme Court justice bring up the fact that Wilbur Ross has repeatedly lied about this?
He repeatedly lied. He went to the Justice Department, to low-level officials, and said, hey, don't you guys want to ask for the citizenship question? And we literally uncovered documents where they said, this is not our issue, and it's kind of a bad time for us. We've got the whole Comey thing going on. So then they went to DHS, who turned them down. Then they went back to the Justice Department, to Sessions. Sessions was still AG at the time, and said, no problem. Happy to ask for whatever it is that you need me to ask for. So there's a whole trail of deceit and lies, and it was very discouraging to see the court turn a blind eye to that today.
One of the things that's interesting, they also heard 10 minutes of arguments from the House of Representatives. That's pretty interesting and doesn't necessarily happen all the time.
It is. I'm not sure. The main thing that we needed to show in the court today is that Wilbur Ross, lied about why he needed the citizenship question. And secondarily, that this question is one that will jeopardize the 2020 census. This is literally an attempt by the administration to hijack the census at the 11th hour in ways that will harm African Americans, Latinos, and communities of color. I'm going to remain hopeful. We have 3 federal courts who have all struck the citizenship question down. I hope that the Supreme Court will do the right thing and affirm the rulings of those 3 lower courts.
I'm reading this last question for you. I'm reading this Politico story. They say at what point Roberts faulted Ross's critics for suggesting that the conclusions of Census Bureau statisticians were the only factors Ross could properly consider in making this decision. You have a lot of back and forth going on here as well. And again, your sense, obviously, who do you think is going to be the critical vote here? Earlier, when there was a decision to halt a trial, they chose not to. Roberts went along with the liberal justices, but Alito, Gorsuch, as well as Clarence Thomas would have halted the trial. So is the real issue here as to whether or not Kavanaugh and Chief Justice Roberts are going to align with the 4 liberal justices? Is that what we're looking at here?
Justice Roberts has, from time to time expressed concern about the reputation, the standing of the court, the integrity of the court. And to me, if that's true, this case will be a test of his legacy, because we have a case here that is built on deceit and lies, a record that shows deceit and lies by the Trump administration at every turn. And for Justice Roberts to turn a blind eye to that, I think would be incredibly telling. I have little confidence that we'll get Justice Kavanaugh or Justice Gorsuch's vote in this case. They really stretched and went to extreme limits to ignore the record in this case, going so far as to point to Spain, Germany, and other countries that do ask the citizenship question at some point in their census. Those are different countries, different contexts, different constitution. So I think it really will boil down to Justice Roberts doing the right thing in this case. I hope that he will. This case has grave implications for African Americans and people of color all across our country. We deserve a fair census, and we deserve a shot at making sure that our communities get their fair allocation of federal funding at the start of the next decade.
And of course, we have absolutely no faith whatsoever in Clarence Thomas ruling the right way on this one. Kristen Clarke with the Lawyers Community, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Support Roland Martin Unfiltered. Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.